Today is Lennix. He's the managing director at OKX, which is one of the crypto exchanges applying for a license here. So we're just discussing, Lennix, that you started this application process about a year ago now. Is that right?
Yeah, we prepare for these applications in terms of personnel, team, management for a year ago.
But the rules start effective today, so everyone applying from today will need to be meeting these new regulations. So when exactly are you planning to submit the paperwork finally?
So right now it's just paperwork and also engaging with other external consultants. So hopefully by the end of the year, everything's finished. We can submit the applications.
Okay, great. But you already talk to me about the amount of investment that you've made so far in Hong Kong, because it's not an easy process to set up here. This is a regulation framework that's very high on investor protection. Yeah,
I think one of the requirements to get the license is you need to have what we call a substantive presence before today. So it's likely we need to have a dedicated personnel. Like, for example, we have around 60 persons that dedicated working on this particular license. We also need to have local people in terms of technology. We need to have an office. We need to have compliance people dedicated, assigners for this regime. So I don't know the amounts, but we need to invest a lot of people in terms of investment.
Okay, so big investment. What sort of ROI, though, are you expecting from it?
Yeah, I think, hard to say, but I think it's a very important regime. It's an exchange license, and it's also open to retail under a very sophisticated financial framework in Hong Kong. So we expect that we bring in a lot more new flow, especially for traditional players.
One of the reasons that when we've spoken to exchanges about coming to Hong Kong is just the cost of setting up here, because it is expensive. It's still a relatively small market. What sort of bet do you think that China is going to eventually be opening up and lifting its ban on crypto trading?
As a matter of fact, this is a license for not just for crypto, to be frank, from my understanding. It's also for virtual assets. So virtual assets per se probably means that we can have any other tokenized financial instruments or any other tokenized real world assets probably could be less under this particular regime. So I think I would consider this regime is not just designed for crypto, but also expanded to even bigger spectrum of the business.
Yeah, there is a talk that maybe this is sort of the phase one, I guess, of crypto regulations getting underway. So what exactly would you expect in phase two, for instance? What's top of your list that you want to see the Hong Kong regulators addressing?
I think as this phase one is probably we need to focus on education. We need to focus on the Hong Kong regulators need to focus on understanding the current player in terms of operation. And in terms of phase one, I would also expect that probably we also build the trust and the operation understanding between the regulator, so that we have some requirement that we can talk directly with regulators.
When it comes to requirements, though, because derivatives is one area, for instance, that is important for exchanges to be able to make money from that. So what sort of conversations are you having around that?
I would expect that they will have another consultation related to derivatives. But in between, I think there would be some discussion related, for example, like margin trading, not just derivative, but margin trading could be a bit easier to take it to further under this regime.
Given that the focus is quite narrow right now for the framework, and things like margin trading aren't in it, things like derivatives are not in it, it can be quite complex or a difficult path for exchanges to make money here. So how many do you think that Hong Kong can really support if you say this isn't really so much of a bet on China right now?
So right now, we already opened like 16 tokens allowed it to be offered to Hong Kong retailers. But more important is after a license to be granted, we expected there will be a banking access directly within that regime. So Hong Kong retailers or Hong Kong institutional can using their Hong Kong bank account directly deposit and trade crypto. That is much more important. So Hong Kong essentially becomes the fiat on-ramp for crypto ecosystem. That's much more important than the trading pair per se.
But when it comes to banks, because that's been obviously one of the pain points, so what kind of conversations are you having with lenders? Who are you speaking to, for example, in the market?
Yeah, we're speaking at least 10 banks locally in Hong Kong. I think a lot of banks right now is kind of like mapping the ecosystem player who is actually going to be regulated or intentional to fulfill kind of regulation, and also understanding our business and our corporate structure. We have two things, right? We have operating account that need to open, and also the client access money account that need to be open. So I think right now is mostly on initial conversation, but they would like to understand our licensing process.
And when the kinds of conversations, set the scene of the tone of them, because is it something that's positive, or are you still finding a general reluctance from banks here?
It's quite positive. I mean, quite positive. I means that they at least have spent time to understand the organization structure and our licensing process, and also the policy that are going to submit for the license. I mean, AMPL policy or internal policy. So previously we don't have these kind of conversations.
And to date, have you been able to open your bank accounts though in Hong Kong?
No, for client, no. For client access, still no. But for operating account, hopefully we can get it.
Okay, so but currently you don't have a bank in Hong Kong that is willing to open bank accounts for you?
Yeah.
Okay, not even ZA Bank, which has been one of the ones that's been more receptive?
I think we will announce once the bank account is ready.
Okay, so still quite a few challenges then, it sounds like, from the banking perspective, possibly something that is keeping some companies outside of Hong Kong for now?
I think it just takes time. It's a new business, new industrial sector for them. So I think it's still possible. It takes time for them.
Okay. And just last question in terms of the general outlook, because we've just started a new trading month here, and Bitcoin a little bit higher in the session today, but just coming off a monthly loss. So what would you say is the outlook that you're putting on crypto assets for the next month, or quarter ahead rather?
Yeah, the crypto asset is still under heavy influence for the macro economy. So even we talk about Hong Kong Day, I think it won't see a material impact after maybe the banking access is being granted, after maybe probably 1 year later.